Good morning. I'm Daniel Lemons, president of Lehman College, and it's my great pleasure to welcome each of you on behalf of the college to our inaugural two-day conference, the Bronx Environmental Summit, which is made possible by the generosity of the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation and its president, Dr. Adam Falk. Why are we having this conference now and in the Bronx? The planning for this meeting has taken place while the world's been struggling with the greatest public health crisis in over 100 years. Not only that, but the Bronx has been one of the places most impacted by this crisis. We have representatives at the meeting from our sister institution, the Montefiore Medical Center, where by the end of last year, 2020, there had been over 2,500 deaths from COVID-19. Two of the 5 areas that are still designated as yellow zones by the New York State Department of Health, as of yesterday, are in the Bronx. By now, it seems like a set of facts that often is repeated and it's difficult to impress us, but I think it is worth reiterating. The pandemic hit the Bronx so hard, partly because the Bronx already had the worst health statistics in New York State. The Bronx had a very high incidence of asthma, diabetes, and other comorbidity factors. One study found that in the Bronx, a disproportionate number of residents with respiratory illnesses such as asthma prior to the pandemic, exacerbated by environmental inequity, air pollution, proximity to the Cross Bronx Expressway and the major Beacon Expressway, were twice as likely to die from COVID-19 than their counterparts in other boroughs. So there's a clear linkage between climate change and health, with those impacts most pronounced in vulnerable groups of people amply represented in the Bronx. The significance of the connection between health and climate was highlighted this past October when the National Academy of Medicine titled its annual meeting, Confronting Urgent Threats to Human Health and Society, COVID-19 and Climate Change. In one panel, Jacqueline Patterson, who's the Senior Director for Environmental and Climate Justice with the NAACP, said, "The social determinants of health are the same as those for climate change." So there are profound implications for Bronx residents, and residents of every urban area with regard to climate justice and environmental equity. Globally and nationally, climate change has been temporarily slowed by the decrease in travel during the pandemic, with markedly improved air quality in many urban areas around the globe. We need more than a temporary cessation, though. The Princeton Net Zero America Project 2020 report found that greatly reducing nitric oxides, sulfur dioxides, and other coal plant emissions would prevent 100,000 premature deaths between 2020 and 2050 and would produce $930 billion in net financial benefits. The local and the global are inextricable. Local air quality, extreme heat and heat island effects, storm impacts, mental health, they play out on all scales. We can zoom out or we can zoom in, and our conclusion will be the same. The health, climate, and equity crises are intimately linked, and we must address them all. And let me add just a couple more that are also linked: racism and sexism. Will not be effectively confronting all of these challenges or any one of them alone unless we confront them all and do it now. Our second Earth Day during the pandemic is approaching next month. Last year, for the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, I wrote an in-depth newsletter to the campus about the connection between COVID-19 and climate change. There are a number of significant linkages and parallels. Two in particular greatly concern me. One is the denial of the magnitude and urgency of both crises, COVID and climate. If large segments of our society can witness over 500,000 deaths from COVID-19 and still behave as if there is no crisis, then we can certainly imagine that they will be able to ignore the much more slowly developing impacts of climate change. The other major concern is the discrediting of science and of experts by public officials, media provocateurs, and anyone with a social media account. We have to build back public trust in legitimate sources of information. And that, to me, is part of the significance of this Bronx Environmental Summit. and what will follow it. This summit is a cross-disciplinary meeting that includes environmental science, biology, political science, sociology, and other areas of study that are all needed to mount an effective and sustained battle against climate change and for equity. Communications and media experts must also be a part of the array of disciplines that are included in this effort. In my in-depth article of last year's Earth Day, I wrote about Lehman College's initiatives to lower our carbon footprint. The college has been composting garden waste since 1996 and food waste since 2009. And about 3 years ago, we added food waste from the cafeteria. Currently, we produce about 9 tons of food waste each year on campus, but now we give it away. An amazing 1.3 tons of food-grade quality compost. It goes to the community gardens in the Bronx. And with the help of Senator Alessandra Biaggi, we've received a state grant of $340,000 to expand that composting facility and to expand our education of the community with that facility. We've also found over $1 million in energy savings each year so far. We've built a LEED certified science building with rooftop thermal. We have a new nursing building going up that will have 34 kilowatts of photovoltaics on its roof. We're joining the New York City bike share program this year, and we're planning for EV charging, which amazingly enough is something that New York City has almost none of. And we're moving forward on a 4 megawatt community solar photovoltaic installation that would power the equivalent of about 175 homes or offset 1,000 tons of CO2 annually. So these are significant accomplishments, but they're still just the beginning of what we need to do. We need to keep examining our own practices and finding ways to decrease our carbon footprint, and we need to integrate climate awareness through our curriculum and use our academic and research muscle to explore more solutions to climate change. As we take these steps in a determined and carefully considered way, we can be the source of ideas and hope for our local communities and beyond it. Action and hope are both necessary. The writer Ines Helger tweeted last year, "I don't care how bad it gets. I don't care how many thresholds we pass. Giving up is immoral." And she went on to say, "I think hope is really precious. And the most precious thing about it is that you have to earn it. You have to go out and make your own hope." And that's what I see around me at Lehman College. We're making our own hope and doing it in our way and making each other hopeful as we do. And that's what I also see in this Bronx Environmental Summit. Hope. There's still so much more work to be done. And as we think about this and listen to our speakers, we're going to hear about strategies and holistic ways forward. None of those ways are clear or simple, and we'll need more such summits to further our learning and inform our actions. We're having the opportunity these 2 days to learn from each other because of the efforts of many, and I would like to thank the organizers at Lehman College who have done a superb job through creativity and many, many hours of work. Dean Pam Mills, Professors Elia Machado, Duran Thak, Renuka Sankaran, Vice President Susan Ebersol, Tara Tomlinson, Laurence Fauntleroy, and I know there are many others who deserve credit. And we look forward to our colleagues at Fordham University and representatives from the New York Botanical Garden, a longtime valuable partner of Lehman's, joining us throughout the 2 days of the sessions, led by our many remarkable speakers. So thank you to all of you and to our terrific speakers and everyone participating over the next few days. Welcome to this groundbreaking inaugural Bronx Environmental Summit. I now want to invite you to attend the keynote address, Pathways to Advancing Climate Justice by Dr. Radley Horton.